Hey everybody, today I have Joy here from Mahogany Mommies, and we're going to show you how a teacher retires at 39 with doing print on demand and scaling her t-shirt business. You got to watch this. And also make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell, smash the like button, and follow at OmniPrint International, at Mahogany Mommies. And we're going to show you how right now. So I'm happy to introduce today Joy. Joy, thank you for being here from Mahogany Mommies. Super glad to have you here to share your story. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing and all that.
Well, again, name's Joy. I am a high school teacher. I'm a business teacher. I started Mahogany Mommies February 24th, 2020. Always had a desire for entrepreneurship. I just did not know where. Like I didn't know where to start, to be quite honest with you, in terms of what was right for me. So last year, the end of 2019, I was going through a lot of hard things, a lot of back-breaking hard things. But at that point, I was really desiring again to start my own business. So after I took Charles, who again was formerly on your show, I took his master class in terms of learning how to do Facebook ads and really just learning how to truly market my business online is where I was inspired to create Mahogany Mommies. So that's where it started.
Wow, that's awesome. So you're a teacher, you're thinking, all right, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do something different. So that inspired you to create a brand. And what's your brand about?
So for my brand actually started off to celebrate and inspire Black women and Black culture. I started again my business February 24th. And after a few months, there was a couple, several issues that came about, one being George Floyd. And so I was seeing the shirt that said, "I can't breathe." And for me, it was a statement that was very much from a victim perspective. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to change that quote to, I wanted to put something out there that was more empowering. So I changed the quote to, came up with my own quote: "I will use my breath to speak up for those that can't breathe." And as I did that, it just seemed like the social justice piece in terms of my business was born with that shirt. That wasn't the initial, that wasn't my original goal to do social justice tees, but it was, I'm a Black woman, I have Black sons, so it was just unconsciously rooted in what I wanted to share in terms of my messages. So when I came up with that shirt, people just loved it. It just, it blew up. I guess it was something that everybody else was waiting for because they didn't completely feel comfortable wearing the shirt, "I can't breathe." And then from there, I just start coming out with other social justice tees. So it's rooted in celebrating Black women and Black culture, but also giving a voice or sending messages out regarding social justices and social causes as well.
That's awesome. So like you went from a point where you're turning a negative or bad situation and figuring out how do you inspire and how do you create something that's positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so more people resonate to something positive like that than the "I can't breathe" part. That's
Exactly.
negative. So what kind of advice would you have for somebody in that same situation where they're starting and say, what do I do? Yeah, you're already starting, you already sold some stuff, like maybe take people through what they can do to start.
Well, in terms of if they've already sold, started their business and sold some items, the one big thing I would say is be consistent. Because I find that some people, when they first start, in their mind, they want their sales to skyrocket as soon as they start their business. And that's not the reality. Some days you might have slow days, you might have slow months, but you have to be consistent. Not only consistent with doing the work, but also honing in on your craft. For example, I do Facebook ads. I don't know everything, so I have to constantly do research. I'm in a mastermind. Networking is a great thing so you can continue to learn, but being consistent, being open to learning, that's one thing. And then networking with other people that are doing the same thing that you're doing. There's people in my mastermind group, we share tips all the time to help each
That's
other.
awesome. I love
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. That, and then one thing again is just you have to make the decision that there's no other way but to win. It doesn't mean, even if it's not happening, right now you're not getting the sales, you need to follow through. And one thing I said, I was telling a friend, once you make that decision that this is going to work, you just have to be consistent. You have to
Yeah,
be
I love it. And I always tell people like there's no way you can fail when you don't give up,
true.
right? So it's super important for people to really take that in because a lot of people just are right before they're about to win, right? And they just give up,
Yeah, and
right?
it's one thing I realized, to really be a successful entrepreneur, you have to really be resilient. You have to be resilient. You have to be able to adjust when certain things don't go your way. You need to switch it up and do something else. So those are attributes that you definitely need to have to win. I've
Yeah,
learned that in
that's
entrepreneurship.
awesome. That's awesome. So how did you end up going like the idea to the mission to growing that?
I was a teacher. I was very financially strapped. I had a kid going to college. It was just a lot going on. And so I decided that I was going to bet on myself in 2020. And with doing that, I used my rent money to actually put my entire store together. And then I used my rent money again to join a mastermind to make sure I had effective coaching. It was days to keep my ads going that I had to Uber.
Yeah, I love it. I
I
love it.
actually Ubered on the weekends that my daughter wasn't here to make sure that my ads were going because I was just determined, like, I can't explain it. Like, I was in the zone. Nothing was going to stop me. It wasn't money, no excuses. And then once it took off, I was using POD, which is print on demand at the time. But due to COVID, everything just started to slow down. And so I had to actually pivot 3 times. I went from Printful 3 weeks later because they actually had their shipping times went to 6 weeks. Then I pivoted to Printify. Then their shipping times went up. Then I pivoted to Custom Cat. And then after Custom Cat, even though they were able to get my shirts out within 2 to 5 days, 2 to 6, something like that, it was, quickly. The quality was just not where it needed to be for several of my shirts. Like, I was
Yeah.
getting too many customer complaints for my liking. And so at that point, I pivoted in-house and started pressing my own shirts.
Wow, wow. If you want to have control of your quality, you want to have control of your delivery times, the only way is to start doing stuff yourself, right? Once you get to that scale. So, and that's where print on demand is. That's the value. You sell first, then you produce and ship, right? But make sure you're properly managing those expectations of those customers and all that.
One thing I didn't say is in my 4th month with the shirt, the way it took off, I did over $108,000.
That's crazy on your fourth month. $108,000 in your fourth month.
Yes,
Crazy.
it was crazy. So my volume was insane. And so I knew that at the time I could not do it all by myself. So I went to a print shop not far from here. They were very helpful. They taught me how to press and everything, but they could not keep up with my volume. And I got backlog. And so eventually I had to bring my sons in and we just sat in the house and pressed all day, literally all day.
Now that you figured out, okay, the what is working, what I sell, what I do is working,
Mhm.
it's time to start scaling. So, guys, just a recap, right? So, make sure that you could be 4 months away from your next hit, right? But you got to be consistent. You got to make that decision to win. That's what Joy is saying.
Mhm.
One thing that's important, you always got to test your technology, right? Test your sites.
Mm.
Make sure that you can check out. Stop being cheap and not trying to swipe your own credit card on your own site. How much did you sell in January? Come on, you got to tell us.
But I'm right now. I mean, I'm doing pretty. I'm over 60K right now.
Ooh, yeah.
Doing over
Come
60K.
on, guys.
But
So your teacher salary, you hit it in less than a month. There you go.
to be honest with you, I press a lot. So
Yeah. And you're primarily doing vinyl, one color or transfers. What are you doing?
transfers, and most of my shirts are one color. Entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not easy.
No.
That's why you do have to make the decision that you want to win at it, because it's not easy. It's very rewarding, but it takes time. It takes dedication. On a Friday, most people are sitting at home watching Netflix, eating pizza.
Yeah.
I'm pressing shirts and heading to the post office after this interview.
Yep. You're doing an interview. You're online. You're like networking. You're promoting.
Yes. So you have to, again, that decision is so important, because it's so many people out here that they aspire to be an entrepreneur, but it's like, do you really want to do that? Do you really want to dedicate yourself to it? And so you have to be very decisive when it comes to actually putting in that work and putting in that action. Like, I want to eventually transition soon to CEO versus just being self-employed. And to do that is by scaling and getting the right people around me. So what advice could you give me in terms of scaling and making that transition from self-employed business owner to actually CEO?
Yeah, that's a super powerful question, because remember, at the beginning, we're all just trying to get those initial orders, right? We don't care that we got to press. We don't care any of that stuff. We just get it done. But once you're making sales, right, and what you're selling is working, the product works, right, then you have to start thinking about, who am I doing it with? What's the team? I'm telling you guys, it took me 15 years, but if I would have asked better questions, right, the quality of the questions determine the quality of your results, right? These are good questions that you're asking, right? Building the team earlier on is important, right? So don't be afraid of adding people, because they're not going to cost you money. They're going to save you money, right? And the reality is, make sure you're documenting everything that you're doing right now. If you could do it in video, even better. For example, this is my website. This is how the orders come in, especially when you're doing your own production, right? Number one, you got to invest in your production team first. The equipment should pay for itself. So make sure you have equipment that scales.
Okay.
Number two, you got to have the staff say, you know what? You're in charge of pulling the shirts, pulling the orders for the day. Make sure you have a workflow management system that helps you manage the orders on the way in, so you can track your orders in the process, be able to efficiently ship them out, reduce that cost. Because remember, you can't just add employees to problems either, to chaos, right? So that's why I'm talking to you about documenting your process. Because once you see it down, you're like, wait a minute, why am I doing those 5 steps? Could I do it in 3? Why do I have so many highlighters and pens and papers all over the area trying to figure out which order goes where, right? Am I double entering my shipping labels? Am I spending too much time there, right? So a lot of those things, especially when it comes to you're already having too much production that you can handle, that's where I would start. Okay. You're going to have to be CEO ops for a little bit, because your business is, pretty young still. And then people got to see you're like the biggest, you're the hardest worker of your team. I'm sure they already know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would totally look into that. If you're going to keep your production in-house, to growing that and knowing how long it's taking you to fulfill an order, and then backfilling from that. At the beginning, I was doing everything, building machines, selling them, supporting them, all that stuff. But when you have a big vision and you want to get to big places, You can't be shy of hiring people to help you.
Mm. I'm glad you brought up vision. That brings me to the second question. So right now, again, my business is pretty, pretty young, but I have a big vision of being in like big stores like Walmart and Target, and like I see myself there. I see, especially with the messages that I have, because a lot of my messages, are centered around unity and solidarity and things like that. So, what advice would you give me to possibly make my way there?
Yeah, we have customers that have done that, right? They're in their stores. But let me be super, super, super clear with you. Your e-commerce has to be your number one play.
Mm.
It has to be your number one play. Why? Because you can focus on it.
Mhm.
You're like learning about it. But this is the thing. Retail is a different animal. There's a layer of retail where you don't get paid for 90, 180 days.
Mm.
They can return whatever, right?
Wow.
You're in zero position of power. You're upfront inventory and shipping out your babies. So you have to be super careful, right? If you do anything that's retail, make sure you get educated. Make sure you don't do anything that is on net terms. Baby wants, baby pays. Seriously, because the retail establishment is what it is for many, many years, right? Everybody's thinking, I'm going to be successful if my friends see my stuff at the stores and I can say that everything's sold at these boutique stores and this and that, right? I'm going to be successful. But the reality is, you're going to be way more successful with e-commerce because you own the customer.
Mm.
You own their text message number, email, address. You release something, bam, you hit them with a new release on their email, give them a coupon. You own the customer. In retail, you have no idea what's working until 90 days later. They're like, you know what? Half of your stuff didn't work. We're sending it back. You don't know if they displayed it right, they marketed it right. You don't even know if they showed it. Remember, if you focus on your first flow, then you're going to really, really get good at it fast. Especially if you're training and learning and investing in your education all the time, the courses, the masterminds, all that stuff, powerful.
Thank you for that, because you made me just see it from a total different perspective. So thank you.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Every little channel and opportunity, Joy, that comes to you, just analyze it and learn it first, because you can get spread too thin. Everything's possible in my head. I have all these ideas every single day. Bam, 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 bam. They come. Learn how to prioritize the ideas. If they're too out there, I have my list, right? I put them there so they can live, but I know that I gotta focus on what the mission is and hammer it. Focus on the big goals that are structured. If I start trying to do too many things, nothing works. So that's why I always tell people, like, when you're trying to do too many different things, just be careful.
My goal is to launch another store in about a month, so I'm gearing up for that too. So and I'll be retiring from teaching. So
Retire. Hey, there's nothing wrong with teachers. I gotta tell you, we need some good ones. You're making your own freedom, you know?
and that's the money is beautiful too, but the time is a valuable asset. And I'm a business teacher and I teach entrepreneurship. So for so long I was asked, like, you should be doing this, Miss Cobb, you should be doing it. And it feels fantastic to actually be doing what I teach. Yeah, it's a blessing that I'm able to come to this point where I'm able to retire. So I'm blessed.
Wow,
And I'm
that's possible. That's super powerful too. How you can retire.
yeah.
You know what? I was gonna ask you how old you are, but you can't. You can't say. You can't. I can't put that on
Oh no,
on the interwebs.
I have a problem. I'm 39.
Oh, how to retire from your teaching career at 39.
Boom.
Boom.
So
I love it. I love it. Because, like I said, you're inspiring a lot of people out there to go out there and execute, do the work. super powerful. So, Joy, thank you so much for joining us at another session of Creators One-on-One. It was really great having you here. And we really, really, really hope that you put that stuff into play and really get your business growing more than it already has.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.